Hello and welcome. I am Cyril Stober. Health, in general terms, refers to physical and emotional well-being. And today, our attention goes to this sector as we take a look at a key aspect of healthcare in Nigeria. We sit down with a professional in a specialized area of healthcare right after this.
From one hotel room to another one. This is the game changer seat. Fly Emirates. Fly better.
My guest today is a neurotoxicologist, a medical research scientist, and clinician with more than 3 decades combined corporate, academic, public, and administrative experience. He holds a PhD in comparative medicine from the Oregon State Oregon Health Sciences University in the United States of America and earned a master's degree in clinical and molecular toxicology from the same institution. He initially received his medical degree, Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, from the Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. He also practices integrative and regenerative medicine. Let's welcome Dr. John Toagbidie. Thanks for being with us here.
It is my pleasure.
Right. It's good to see you again. You've been on this forum a long time ago.
Yeah, that was quite some time ago.
Right, but glad you could come back.
Always.
All right.
Yeah.
So we start off by first asking some very basic questions. You started off as a doctor of veterinary medicine, and at some point, you know, went into all of this that we have just described you. What was the pull for you when you left Zaria and then went to the United States? What was that pull to the other aspect of it?
Well, thank you very much, Siri. First of all, let me, being a teacher as I am, I would give you an A for the definition of, health that, you gave. That was very good. Now, coming to your question, you see, Siri, I'm somebody that would like to see an improvement on my lot. As you rightly said, after Ahmadu Bello University, I practiced in the country for almost a decade, but driven by the passion that I need to improve myself. Honestly, I left professional studies in the United States, and when I got there, just went through those qualifications, and ultimately when I finished my PhD in comparative medicine, I became very inquisitive that, look, I must be able to think, and one thing I told myself from the word go is that whatever I do in life or the knowledge I acquire in life, I must set to come back and give to my country, because this is where I belong. People go, you become a Nigerian American, you feel that that is heaven and earth, but for me, Nigeria here is, heaven. So driven by that passion, I really improved myself. After studies, I don't just left like that. I went into other areas, and specifically integrative medicine. By that time, integrative medicine was just coming up. And people would ask, what is integrative medicine? Integrative medicine simply combining, to integrate, you are bringing the conventional aspect of medicine with what you call the, comparative, and then what you call complementary, and then regenerative medicine, or functional medicine. Functional medicine is actually holistic. You're looking at the root cause of disease. So when I combine my own conventional aspect of, the training and integrative aspect, which is functional, some of the tools I learned to use in disease management. By the way, you don't really treat disease, you manage disease. Disease is multifactorial and so complicated. It is not just something like bacteria where you can use just antibiotics. So you use different modalities and functional modalities, things like ozone, undermed, nutritional infusion, to manage and treat disease. So I have been able to do this, successfully using this approach. And I'm glad I made this decision over 10 years ago that I must head back home and give to my country what I have learned and the skills that I have gotten. That has been my vision and ambition in life, and I'm happy I'm doing that now.
Now, two things interest me as you speak. One, you've defined for us integrative medicine. You also spoke about regenerative medicine, and you talked about the nutritional part of all of this, and those two I'm particularly interested in, the regenerative and the nutritional, because our main discussion would fall on the nutritional aspect of health, right?
Well, Chris, let me give you a little bit background. You see, the way God created the body, I have a popular saying that man is born to live and die. How well you live and how soon you live depends on your lifestyle. Nobody ever dies of old age. We die because as we age, because of a wrong lifestyle, disease comes in. It is the disease that kills us. So what we're saying is this. If you look at man has a potential to live for 130 years. However, because of our lifestyle, now we shorten this lifespan and disease comes in and disease kills us. So what we're saying in integrative medicine is that let's use a holistic approach. Take, for example, diabetes. Take, for example, hypertension. I wasn't born diabetic. It is as a result of lifestyle that disease came in. And another name for diabetes or the type 2 diabetes is adult onset diabetes. Because as a result of one's lifestyle, then the disease came in. Now, we're saying that if you go into the body and treat the body right, do certain things as the body was before disease came in, you should be able to go back to where you are. We all seated in this room, you find it very clean. But if we had allowed it to be dirty, I don't think me and you will be sitting and making, interaction here. The place will be smelly. And that's exactly what happens in life. Now, when we're born, our body is very clean. You see a baby, the baby has a very good what we call pH, that is the degree of alkalinity or acidity that actually guides and this. And by the way, the unit of life is a cell. So to us, in integrative medicine, we look at life or treatment or management of disease from the cell. So the cell should be prepared or should be helped to function the way God made it exactly before we started exposing ourselves. And one of the dangers of lifestyle, it leads to what you call accumulation of toxins in the body. And once the toxins are there in the body, the cell cannot function. Then we say the cell is not at ease. It is disease. That is the meaning of disease.
All right.
Yes.
Now I get that. It's now at ease. It's no longer at ease.
No,
it's
that's
state of disease.
Yeah. So all you do, you try to help the cell. Different micronutrients. This is by way of minerals or by way of vitamins to actually function. Remember, I said we should be focusing on the cell to understand what disease is. So the cell requires all this much minerals and vitamins, to function. And I'm glad in the course of our discussion, we're going to be touching on one of the super ones.
Okay.
That the body actually, requires. So it is very important to know. And that's why in these days we talk about adequate nutrition. You don't talk about balanced diet again. Because talking about nutrition or diet, you must include the word micronutrients. And these are minerals and vitamins.
Okay. Yes. So that we will consider in greater detail right after this.
Sure.
Just close the doors, and you're in a world of your own. Travel is not just about the destination. It's also about how you get there. Fly Emirates. Fly better.
All right. You talked about one super mineral or, vitamin which, has a lot to do with the well-being. So let's hear you unravel this.
And that super vitamin, and I'm going to correct myself, or let the general public know it is not actually a vitamin.
Right.
A vitamin is a vitamine. And
Right.
this super guy in town now that if you go, everybody is talking about him is vitamin D, which I'm here to tell you that it is not a vitamin. You know, when scientists discovered, vitamins, they named them alphabetically. The first vitamin to be discovered was vitamin A. Then you have B. Then you have C. And for some reason, when they came to make the call one D, they called the wrong thing that vitamin D. Vitamin D is actually a hormone. And then after D, you have E, and then K, and then the rest. But it is in that order. The first vitamin to be discovered was vitamin A. So, let me make some clarifications here. Vitamin D, as I said, is not a vitamin. It is a vitamin.
Okay, so we just use that to describe it, because I'm going to be wondering.
Yeah, that is what everybody knows.
It is vitamin D, it is not vitamin
school,
D.
I mean, high
You
cycles,
don't walk
they
anywhere
still
and
call
say,
it, a vitamin.
give me a hormone D.
No,
you
can't.
know what
No,
you
it
say.
will represent that. But for
Right.
purposes of education, it is very important that we understand, because vitamins don't have receptors.
Okay.
Vitamin D has receptors in the body and all over the organs, including the skin. So, and it comes primarily from food sources. And I'm going to correct the notion that vitamin D is gotten from the sun. Now, if vitamin D is actually gotten from the sun, why is it that the black population that lives in the tropics, if you look at it, we are the most vulnerable and deficient in vitamin D, our population, the black population. 40% of the world population is vitamin D deficient. 80% of the black population is vitamin D deficient. Those are the statistics. So, if it is, a vitamin as it is claimed, and we live in the tropics and we get from the season, we should be the ones full of vitamin D in our bodies. But because it is a receptor, it's actually a sex hormone, like testosterone, or progesterone, or estrogens, or any of those sex hormones. If you look at its own structure.
Okay.
So let's understand, if vitamin D is a hormone, how does the body make vitamin D? One of the key sources where vitamin D is actually made is from a product or compound that were misinformed, and I'm sure we've all heard of cholesterol. Vitamin D is made from cholesterol. This is why it is so critical and very important. If I take you back to 101 biology, you know that the cell membrane, the cell has the cell membrane, then it has the cytoplasm, then it has the nucleus, and then other organelles, including the most important one known as the mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of energy production. So let's look at this. You see, if you look at the cell membrane, in those days when we were told that what is the most important part of the cell, we would say what? The nucleus. But today, if you say that in my class, I will give you an F. The cell membrane is the most important part of the cell. And the cell membrane is made up of cholesterol. You talk about that lipid bilayer, the phospholipids, the omega-3s. That's what makes, the cell membrane. And as I said, cholesterol being part of the cell membrane as a phospholipid makes vitamin D. Now, there are dietary sources of, vitamin D. The key to understand here, that vitamin D is in its inactive form. The one that you see produced from cholesterol, which is known as cholecalciferol. Now, how does it become active? Because without it being active in the body, it is of no use. That is where the sun comes in. the UV rays or UV light, once it hits that vitamin D3, it will now activate it in a particular organ, specifically the liver, to the first inactive form. I don't want to go into the details, let's leave it like that. But if you want to know, it is known as 1-hydroxycholecalciferol.
Okay.
Because you've added a 1-hydroxy
Okay,
group.
let's stick to the one that's more
yes,
easily understandable,
okay.
right?
Please. So, to the first active form, so you're converting the D3 to the first active form in the liver. The liver will now send it to the kidney to go to convert it to the second reactive form. Because you have advised me, I'm not going to call that long scientific name, but take it that the kidney is where the second active form of vitamin D is made. And this is the form that we actually measure. And when I tell you that know your level, everybody should know the level of their vitamin D, just like you know your name. That is the form that we measure in the lab. It might interest you, things have actually fast-tracked. When I started the practice about 10 years ago, we used to send blood samples through a lab here to South Africa for them to determine the level of vitamin, the active form that they measure. It used to take us 2 weeks. But today, you can walk into a lab, and we have such a facility too. Within hours, you know your vitamin D, you know level. It is very important to know, to answer the question, and to clarify the fact that if vitamin D is really made from the sun, why would this in the blacks that are in the tropics most deficient in this? Two things we got to understand. Number one, when God created us to be in the tropics, we had this dark pigment known as melanin. Melanin actually reflects the UV light. It doesn't penetrate us to protect us. Without that melanin, we would have been in trouble. So you see, we are not getting the UV rays from the sun as we should. Because if you and a Caucasian are exposed to sunlight, the UV light, within 30 minutes, they've gotten enough to start the conversion of the inactive form of vitamin D, D3. But with us, it takes longer hours.
Okay.
So melanin constitutes a limiting factor. Number two, the lifestyle. People now will spend most of our time in the office. We don't go out, and then so we don't get even that enough sunshine to start the initiation and promotion of conversion of the D3 to the active forms.
Like some of us who stay in a studio.
Oh, yes.
For hours on end every day.
For hours, enjoying AC, you're really depriving yourself of the process that starts the conversion of this. Why this is important is, so it's not only enough for you to have the vitamin D, but your organs must also be functioning right.
Okay. We'll ask you to pause a while, and you'd also explain how the organs can function right as to make use of this.
Yeah. What?
Fly Emirates. Fly better. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes. You see, Sri, the way God made the body, as I said, life started from the cell. A group of cells come together to form what? Tissues. Tissues come together to form organs. Organs now go into systems. So the body is so well organized. In fact, the human body has over 60,000 to 100,000 trillion cells. It's so complicated.
1,000 trillion. That's quite
Trillions.
Right.
It's quite a number. Unbelievable. But it's well organized. As I said earlier in my introductory remark, is our misbehavior through wrong style, lifestyle, that these cells cannot start functioning properly, then tissue can't function properly, then organs start, failing. Fortunately or unfortunately, when we're thinking about disease, especially diseases like cancer, we're just focusing on the organs, or the cancer of the breast, cancer of the prostate, cancer of the, we focus only on the organ. But the disease started from the cell.
Okay.
So it is really very important. Now, to answer your question, how do you really keep these organs working properly? It is where lifestyle comes in. Remember, I said the number one problem, I said, is accumulation of toxins in the body. Once that the body gets overwhelmed with toxins, the cell cannot function properly. The way it happens is this: when a cell is challenged with a toxin, the first thing the cell does is to do what we call a repair. It will repair itself when there is a damage. I'm talking in terms of DNA, damage. The cell will repair. This is what we call DNA, repair. Now, when the toxin persists and the cell fails to repair itself, then the cell will commit suicide. It will say, no, this environment is actually too much for me. I cannot survive here. And it cannot survive because its functions start failing. So it commits suicide. That is what, the medical balance is apoptosis. That is cell death, programmed cell death. Now, when the cell cannot kill itself or cannot repair itself and cannot commit suicide, it is when the cell becomes cancerous. But that is a story for another day. We can discuss cancer. But this is the basic, the basis of how the body works. And to do this, to get the cell in the right environment to function, you make sure that the body is not acidic, because in acidic environment, that is the environment that favors disease to thrive best. This is where you have to remove the toxins. We use processes like, detoxification. You need to clean the house. I've already given an analogy that when you came in, if the place was, dirty, you cannot stay in. Mm-hmm. Or it is just like, you threw food in a dustbin, and then the garbage carrier did not come to this, and you expect that place to be still clean. No, very soon you start seeing maggots growing there. This is what happens in our body. So one of the ways to keep our body clean, and this is to remove the toxin, which we call detoxifications. And another thing you got to do, the cell got to function. Say the cell is a function unit of life. It needs energy for it to propel its activities. And this is why, and to do this, it needs oxygen, it needs micronutrients, which are those minerals, and then, vitamins. Then you need, man is not a couch potato. You need to move the way God created us. That's why we're upright. We're not like animals. If the animal, four-legged animals, they move. Man is born to move. And this is why we do emphasize on exercise. Exercise help your body, nutrients to be transported across the body, even the toxins that are created to be excreted, to be removed out, oxygen that you need for, metabolic activities to be circulated around the body. But if you are not having exercise, you're not moving where there is accumulation of, these toxins. The body has two systems. You have the blood circulatory system. Luckily for us, God made us that the blood circulatory system is pushed around the body by the heart. The heart pushing it out. But another system is what we call the lymphatic system. The lymphatic system is kind of in situ. It doesn't really have a pump. So it's during exercise that the lymphatics actually circulate. What is the importance of lymphatics? Lymphatics is the whole mark of our immune system. That's how immune system gets up. You talk about the lymphocytes and the lymphatic cells that actually constitute the immune system. That's why exercise is really important. I've already talked about, diet. Then I've also talked about, other habits like sleep. Sleep is so critical that WHO has classified the sleep as lack of sleep or inadequate sleep as a carcinogen. That is to say that inadequate sleep will lead to, cancer, and that has been proven. Most diseases are caused by lack of sleep. So adequate sleep is some topic which we can discuss some other days. And there are several other factors. There is what we call health optimization. There are various things you do to optimize our health.
Okay. Well, we'll take a short break at this point. When we return, we'll have more on how to get those systems working. Stay with us on One on One.
Just close the doors, and you're in a world of your own. Travel is not just about the destination, it's also about how you get there. Fly Emirates, fly better.
Why should we be in a difficult situation financially?
Once upon a time we were rich, but we're not a rich country anymore.
Disaster management is everybody's business.
In all these times, the organization turned to Nigeria.
We would as much want to harness the capacity that is within us so that we see how we can become self-reliant.
1 month ended and you said you are increasing warning strike by 2 months. I mean, you are incubating madness.
Even if these are officials of government who have been told to go and enforce the law and they have gone against the law itself, they must be held accountable.
One on One, Friday, 10:30 p.m. on NTA Network.
From one hotel room to another one. This is the game changer seat. Fly Emirates, fly better.
Thanks for staying with us. I'm still here with Dr. John Toagbidie, and we're talking about how to ensure that the body systems work just as they're meant to do. As you say, the Creator designed the body in a specific way, and once that way has been tampered with, then all kinds of problems begin to come in. But again, if we return to the question of vitamin D, you've explained to us how you get it working. And there is a term I'm still keeping, we'll talk more about that, and that's when you say how it is developed, it is triggered. You talked about cholesterol. I'll return to cholesterol, but then let us hear some more of the aspects of how critical vitamin D, or the hormone which you described to us, is to the well-being of the body.
Very good question, Siri, if you just permit me. Because when I was emphasizing on how to optimize our health, I talk about the diet, exercise, and sleep. Another very important component is emotional component. We say that bad emotions kill faster than bad germs. I just want to emphasize that. So when we are thinking about health, just like you defined, you earlier gave me your definition of health, we must look at the emotional component. Now let's talk vitamin D. See that puppy has become a big guy now. There is nowhere in medical balance or cycle that you will not hear of vitamin D. In fact, we say that vitamin D is a hallmark of one's health. This is to say, if you came to my center and I measure your vitamin D level, from the vitamin D levels, I know your health, status, where you are. Because there is what we call deficiency, there is what we call insufficiency, and there is what we call normal levels. These are special levels. Let me just handle it right away. Vitamin D is measured in units. They call it nanograms per milliliter. Anything less than 20 nanograms per milliliter is considered deficient. And on this note, I will report to you that people come to our center, some are less than 10, some even 5. To tell you the magnitude of the problem. We're not just talking literature or books and this thing. We have that data that I can show you. And in fact, I'm happy to report that we're working with the appropriate authorities that I can present this data to convince them to make an appeal for the federal government to call for the fortification of vitamin D in our food as it is done in other countries like United States, like Canada, and then, Norway. Then anything that is from 30, it is considered normal. That is still controversial because there is a wide range. They give a range of 30 to 100 nanograms per liter as being, normal, but no. We said we want you to be, if you are sufficient in vitamin D, you should be anything between 60 to 70 nanograms per milliliter. And I've told you, remember, there are some people that come in with 5. It takes special, skills and training to take you from 5 to, 60 or 70. That's why. But we can discuss that, later. So vitamin D is so critical in our body. Actually, the traditional vitamin D has what you call the basic roles or functions, and then you have the non-basic, functions. The basic functions of vitamin D is what we're all familiar with, and this was worked out in 1920 when the condition known as rickets was first discovered. Rickets, because vitamin D kind of mobilizes it. This primary role or traditional role is for the absorption of calcium into the bones. That is what makes the bones, strong. That is the traditional role we know about vitamin D. And then, phosphorus. And then we also came to know of conditions like osteoporosis, then osteomalacia in case of young children when the bones becomes soft as a deficiency of vitamin D because calcium is not absorbed enough. That condition develops, rickets in children, and then in adults you have osteomalacia and then osteoporosis. That is just softening of the bones, and the bones become brittle. It means you can easily break them. So those are the traditional roles that we knew about, vitamin D. But the non-traditional roles that we have now, vitamin D is key in the function of our immune system, because immune system is what actually drives our health. With a poor immune system, diseases came in. Recently, that was well documented with COVID. They saw that you have publications now all over. Just go there, you will read it. Go to MedPub, you will read it. Papers, publication upon it, where they demonstrated that people that succumbed to COVID were those that were deficient in vitamin D because of its role on the immune system. COVID, we know that is an immunocompromised disease. That is to say that it's immunodeficient or weak immune disease. Those were people that suffered and died from, COVID. If your immune system was up and running, you were more likely to survive COVID, or even if you had hospital stay, it will be shorter days, and you will recover and come back. That's one of the key roles of the non-basic roles, and that these things that I'm talking, this non-basic role became known to us in the last 10 years. Traditionally, we used to think about calcium and blah, 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 with the bone strengthening. So we talk about immune system, then we talk about inflammation. Inflammation is what we call the hallmark of all diseases. That is to say that all diseases are accompanied or start with chronic inflammation.
Okay.
That is another thing. Then there are other roles, but we'll
talk about them. Yes, just in just a moment.
Okay.
From one hotel room to another one. This is the game changer seat. Fly Emirates. Fly better.
All right. Now, talking about when the immune system is compromised and the fact that vitamin D plays a big role in boosting the immune system. We would ordinarily assume that a way to get the immune system to be up and running would be to ensure that you have adequate vitamin D in your system. And we have all said that there are nutritional keys to having this. So what would be better for people by way of nutrition to ensure that you have vitamin D, adequate in your system?
Yes, let me just add to what you said or summarize it. We said that nutrition is the firing power of our immune system. So you've said it all. Now, getting into the practical aspect of this, how do I get vitamin D to ensure that my immune system is up and running? The number one thing, this is where we talk about lifestyle. If you living right, sleeping right, or your diet, there are dietary sources of vitamin D. Like, some of these ones, I don't want to call them because they're not readily available here. But in the other part of the world, the best source of vitamin D is what they call cod liver oil. But here, we have sources like our nuts, they are very good. Eggs are very good. Red meat is very good. Liver is very good.
Red meat?
Yes.
Well, okay. Well,
we will come to that. I know. Right. You see, these days there is all sort of things on the internet flying left and right. But I tell people that I didn't just go to school on the internet. So it's not everything you get on the internet. Or if you read on the internet, you should be able to analyze and build some foundational knowledge should be able to guide you to make a conclusion. So yes, those are the natural sources. Okay. And this comes with, lifestyle, specifically diet. If you're eating right, you will get these things. However, in a situation where you have already abused yourself, you're taking in on small or even zero of these sources of, vitamin D, then especially fat diet. And by the way, I must re-emphasize that vitamin D is what you call a fat-soluble vitamin. So,
well, I don't want to,
go into those, yes. But go ahead.
But you see, you've mentioned three things now, and I think maybe a further explanation would do. Earlier on, you talked about cholesterol.
Yes.
And now you say you can also get this from eggs and red meat. Now, eggs, the first thing they tell you about eggs is, if you take eggs, cholesterol.
Yeah,
red meat, it's cholesterol. So,
I hear you.
I don't get it.
The good thing with science, Siri, science is not static, it is dynamic. You recall in those days we were told, don't go near red palm oil, it is cholesterol, blah, blah, blah. See, that is what you call what? Garbage. First of all, what is cholesterol? Cholesterol is an animal product. Why are you associating it with, plant? It is wrong. But they did those things and then went and some of these other Asian countries that are the ones producing and even manufacturing red palm oil. Today in the United States, they sell red palm oil in capsules. They make them in capsules. So that knowledge has been dead and buried with time. If you go to current literature or publication, red palm oil is being promoted, just like I've given the example of it being made in capsules in the United States.
All right.
Then cholesterol too is a very controversial business because I've said maybe in those days they didn't have proper understanding because you see cholesterol is actually produced in the liver. In a situation where the lifestyle is wrong, the liver is not functioning properly, definitely there will be problem with the cholesterol metabolism. Okay. It doesn't mean that it is the cholesterol that caused the liver problem. It's because of lifestyle, the liver cells became, toxic. They could not function properly and there was accumulation of cholesterol.
Now I get it.
Oh, yeah,
Right,
sure.
okay.
Sure.
Right. Okay, so you've also said you would push, and maybe professionals like you would push for fortification of vitamin D, seeing how important it is to the functions of the body. Well, in the past, nations, including Nigeria, have taken steps in what was called food fortification. We had that with iodine, in the case of goiter. And we also had the promotion of vitamin A through sugar. These are vehicles which are normally found in use in most homes. And one of the reasons salt was chosen for iodization was there's virtually no home that salt was not in use. So if you fortified salt with iodine, then you're more likely to reach more people in a household. So in terms of vitamin D, what would you suggest would be a best way to go about ensuring that the populace get adequate vitamin D in their systems?
Well, the number one thing is through public education. We say that to be uninformed is to be you will become disinformed, and disinformed leads to distortion of your body. So the emphasis here is what NTA is doing now. I'm not sure we've ever had a session like this where persons will come and be talking on vitamin D like this, aware. Now, we say your health is in your hands, one of your programs here. So you take it upon your responsibility, especially those of us that are fairly privileged, to know our vitamin D levels. Very, very important. And if you know your vitamin D levels, it is now very important that you work with a health professional.
Right.
So that it will be corrected. People say, yeah, you see, at least in the course of our discussions, you've seen that vitamin D doesn't come from the sun, contrary to what we were made to believe so many years ago. So, once you discover that there is deficiency, the way to, correct the deficiency is via supplementation. This is where people who would also say, no, I don't need a supplement, I get it from dietary source and blah, blah, blah. Yes, there are dietary sources there, which I had earlier mentioned. God help you, you are taking those dietary sources in the right amount, and you don't go into any of those other terms, insufficiency or deficiency.
Well, while we're at it, yes, we're talking about building the levels, but again, the flip side of it is you've mentioned over and over again lifestyle choices.
Yes.
Now, what are some of these lifestyle choices you have in mind that are more likely to damage your levels of vitamin D, or those things people engage in without realizing that they're harming themselves?
Let me start off from the diet.
Right.
That we talk about. You've heard the popular saying that you are what you eat. And I go ahead to add that it's not only what you eat, how you eat, when you eat, and where you eat.
Right.
Because at a certain age, a lot of emphasis should be laid on green vegetables, green veggie leaves. And why is this important? Because those leaves contain minerals and vitamins that the plant get from the soil. Now, on the how you eat, most of us don't even know how to eat, because the process of digestion actually starts in the mouth. This is to say that you should hold your food in the mouth for a certain number of minutes, chew it very well so that it will mix with the saliva and the digestion will start there before it start going down.
Dr. Tuagwidi,
Yes, sir.
well, you've heard of what we call popular in restaurants and homes, what we call swallow.
Swallow, yeah, that's why I'm telling you,
So when
it
you
is
talk
wrong
about
for you
chewing-
to swallow. You chew and masticate, we call it mastication.
Well, traditionally, when we have those pounded yam with whatever, we just mold them
But-
and then we swallow without chewing.
That's why you see, when you swallow like that, honestly, take for example, if you're eating pounded, which is mostly carbohydrate, the digestion of carbohydrates starts from the mouth, where you have amylase turning it to the next, form, those enzymes in the mouth, turning it to the next form to go through your gut and digestion continues. But if you just don't chew for the amylase to act on the carbohydrates, the food is just pushed down like that. And your gut and other places, the stomach would struggle with it because you didn't start the digestion in the right place. So it is really very, very critical.
Okay, so we must chew our food.
Yeah,
and all that. The
chew
manner
your
in
food
which
very
we-
well, and then talking about vegetables or veggie greens. Let me emphasize on this. It's very, very important because green vegetables contain a lot of vitamins and then minerals, things like magnesium and then calcium, which our body needs. And another one that has become the baby of the wife or the groom in town is nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is gotten mainly from green leaves where you go that contains nitrates. The nitrates get converted to nitric oxide in the mouth by the bacteria and everything. Now I know that the blood linings produces nitric oxide, but the major source of nitric oxide in our body is from plants, and we start the digestion where the nitrate is converted to nitrite, and then nitrite in the stomach to this nitric oxide. Notice that is so important. That is what causes the expansion of our blood vessels. Some of these conditions where you have cysts in the blood or flow, you have raising your blood pressure. This is because it is due to nitric oxide deficiency, because that dilatation of the blood vessel is not there. So you see, chewing the food, you start digestion process, and then encourage to feed on green leafy vegetables.
So you've mentioned a number of things now: exercise, adequate
diet, sleep,
and the whole
emotional
stability,
social balancing. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And so many others that you've been talking about in the course of this discussion. But let's pause a while here, and then we can take on some more.
Okay.
Fly Emirates, fly better. Thank you.
All right. So with all of this, you find that because of everyday living, a lot of people can't meet up to some of what we have talked about here. And so you have people with food on the go, what has been popularly referred to now as junk food, quick fixes, snacks, and people survive on those because they need to do a lot of things, and people hardly have time. Some don't have the time to even exercise. They're busy working, aching a living, and that's one of the challenges. So what would you say to people? You have to be alive to live.
You're very right, Sri. What I normally tell people that come to me or to our center is that, look, Sri, you are doing this job because you are healthy. If Sri, God forbid, is lying in the hospital there, the work will still continue. And that's why I very much cherish that program. Your health is in your hands. So it should be taken very, very seriously. That, being busy, yes, it is there. But I tell people, unfortunately, the moment you are not there, the work continues, life continues. So get this information, know how to use it, and draw a balance And that is one of the why one of those health optimizers, or what we call pillars of longevity, is getting social balancing.
All right.
Learn to do things, balance your life. Let it not be tilted towards one life. Work, and where stress comes in, and stress leads to disease and so many other things.
All right. Just before we round off, we'll take another of these messages, and then we'll put a cap on it.
Fly Emirates, fly better. Thank you.
Right, so we talked about all of this and how important vitamin D is. Now, as we can begin to wind down, how do we find out if we have a deficiency in vitamin D?
As I've said, before even I answer that question, you had earlier asked me that how do we ensure that we have adequate, vitamin D. I told you about the natural sources of diet, and if diet does not meet, there is supplementation, there is oral supplementation. Then if oral supplementation doesn't meet, there is what we call intravenous nutritional infusion. You can inject vitamin D directly at high doses to correct that deficiency level before you now maintain it with oral supplementation.
But this process is basically one that is undertaken by professionals.
Of course, yes.
So, well, as we round off, you've spoken of all of these, but it mentioned.
Yes. How do we know you have vitamin D?
Well, one thing you also mentioned was that people should go to a health professional in conjunction with a health professional to correct this, and not just to, on their own, begin to pop things.
Popping pills.
Right.
It doesn't.
So, your final thoughts as we round off.
Well, I first of all would like to thank NTA for the opportunity to discuss a topic like this. Just as you're aware, not many people even know these nitty-gritties that we have actually highlighted in this discussion. So it is my hope that the public have actually listened. And the number one thing I would say is, please, your lifestyle is very important. So don't go, so that you don't go into deficiency of vitamin D and some of these micronutrients that the body needs to function. Number two, know your vitamin D levels. I am really very happy that these days the awareness is actually being created, and more labs are now doing vitamin D assay. As I said from the beginning, we used to take it out of the country, but now we can do it here. So, in conclusion, I would call, we're working on it, but the federal government should think seriously, just like we had fortified, iodine, vitamin A, and then vitamin D should be the next online. And there are proper steps that are being taken that we would be fortifying our vitamin D. It's so key. If you do that, the population, you have a healthier, population. Thank you.
All right. Well, there are so many other things we'd like to talk about, but we'll just take this final message, and then we'll say our goodbyes.
Fly Emirates, fly better.
And so we'd like to thank you, Dr. John Tor Agbidie, for coming on this program. We do hope that you'll come again, because we'd still want to explore further some of the things we've talked about here today. So we'll look forward to that. Thank you.
Sure. It's always my pleasure.
All right.
Thank you.
And that's our for watching. Next week, we'll be back with One-on-One. I'm Cyril Stober. Bye for now.